kids, today we're going to build this. What is this? This is what I'm calling the boom box. It's a box, and it's used to set off fireworks with a battery. I've got this RC plane drone battery connected to it. The idea is that each one of these little momentary switches are going to send a current to one of these. This is a Fireworks Ignitor. It's an MJG brand, non-ATF brand. It's got a resistor on the end of it with some kind of coating that I would assume is flammable. Anyway, apply current to this, it gets really hot really fast, and it will set off a firework. You can jam this inside of a cake or a canister shell, or just to a fuse. So, I built one of these when I was a kid. Real simple one out of some Tupperware and a few toggle switches and some nichrome. I've been wanting to build one of these forever. So in my mind, I had this big clunky thing like this imagined. You can buy these. You can buy wireless versions of these. But what fun is that? I want to make my own. Now, I can probably figure out a wireless one, but I'm doing this in a tight time frame. I don't really have enough time to do the research and testing to make sure that I'm not making something that can be set off by an errant cell phone signal or a key fob or something. So maybe we'll do that later. My idea with this was to make this quick and to do it with stuff I already had laying around. So really the only thing that I bought outright for this were the momentary switches, this toggle switch, and I bought some quick connect little terminals, really cheap. This would not be a cheap project if you didn't have these things laying around, because I'm using a ton of Cat 5 cable. So let's zoom in here and show you what's going on. So this is the front of the box. It's where you would set if you were operating it. We've got our battery attached over here. We've got our safety switch up here, which turns power on to the rest of the switches. The LED light up here lets us know the power is on. We can hit each one of these to send a current out through these RJ45 jacks because, well, I have these laying around. This is our negative lead. So the idea is plug in a length of this cable into one of these ports, and on the other end of this we have these, which will be attached to one lead of our initiator. Now, I've got these terminal blocks wired up on one of my racks, and our positives will feed out into this, negatives into this, and we'll be able to set off up to 72 different cues, is the term, I believe. So I drew up a quick little model on Tinkercad and burned this all out, etched it all out rather, with my LC50 laser. And let's get down to the process here. Top and bottom are cut out. Took about 3-4 hours to cut these. I just went over that one lightly with some 220 grit. We'll do the same thing on this. This is the bottom. Anyway, I'm gonna put a little bit of this feeding wax on there. I like this stuff. It smells awesome, and you know, it's not harsh. No chemicals, VOCs, whatever. I'm gonna put some of this on there so we can go ahead and wire up the buttons on this. We'll finish the rest of it once it's all together. I did wipe this all down with a dry cloth too. When you're using the laser on these, there's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, there's some ash. And if you don't wipe this down first and get some of that ash off of there, you're going to smear it everywhere with your finish. Give that a few minutes to dry, and then we'll start wiring up the buttons, get everything laid out. So I got a bunch of different colored buttons here. We're just going to kind of lay them out in a semi-consistent pattern here. Actually, let's do red, white, and blue, and then we'll do green and yellow down here. What do you think? So these have a nut and a washer on the back. We're going to take those off. Drop these through the hole here. And then the nut and washer go back on the back to secure them in place. So, do red, white, and blue, then green, and all yellow down here. And then we should have enough, I think, to do one of each and all of these down here. So, I'll get those put in there, and then I'll bring it back before we wire these up. All right, the buttons are in. So we got to start soldering all this together. Turn it upside down here, and I think what I'm going to do is just got some random 18 AWG stuff I got laying around. We'll just kind of link these all together just on one side. So we're only soldering this to one terminal. Then we'll go back through and solder individual pieces that are going to go out to our Ethernet ports. So basically, going to get all of our power set up here. We'll have a single wire for the negative or neutral going through. So we really only need, input and output on these for the power itself. So the hot lead. This is going to be a real good time, kids. Just going to put a little flux on each of these. Not a lot. Turn the smoke absorber on. I'll get a little louder. All right, decent connection on the first one there. Slide my insulator down a little bit. Move on to the next. All right, so we got to repeat this another 65 times. I'll bring you back when that's done. Finally, this is all together here. So we wired our buttons up for our main power coming in, our positive terminal coming in. Got those all just kind of snaked together. Now on the opposite sides, I soldered the strands from some Cat 6 cable that I had laying around. So we're going to take this Cat 6 cable and plug them into female RJ45 ports. I'll show you what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's about it. We got one more thing to do. I gotta throw the switch in there, and I've decided I'm gonna add a LED, so we gotta kind of arrange that too. So I gotta drill a hole for the LED. But anyway, yeah, this terrible part is done. So we got the switch in there, and drilled a little hole up here in the corner where we're gonna put this big red LED through. So now we need to figure out how many resistors we're going to need to hook this up to our power. So my plan is, this is the back side of our board, and our power will be going into the switch And at the very end of our chain of switches here, I'm going to run this wire up to the corner here where our LED will be. And then when we flip this on, it should power all the switches, assuming all the connections in our little chain here are good. The power should go to this LED and turn it on, and then we'll know we've got power everywhere. So I've got these batteries laying around, and that's what I'm going to use to power this. This is a 14.8 volt RC plane / drone battery. Now these old relics, yeah, from Radio Shack. I've had these sitting around for more than 10 years. So that's what we're going to use. Now, on the back of this, it's going to tell you what you need to power this. So our forward current is 20 milliamps. Forward voltage should be 2.4 volts. So we're going to do a little math to figure out how much resistance we need to power this, given that power supply. So our resistance is going to equal the supply voltage minus the forward voltage, which is our LED voltage, divided by the forward current. So we got 14.8 minus 2.4 divided by 0.02. You get 620 ohms of resistance. Unfortunately, I got a 330 ohm and a 220 ohm. Yeah, bought these at the same time I probably bought that LED. I think what we'll do is we'll use 2 of these 330 ohms wired in series, which should give us a cumulative 660 ohms of resistance. Might be a little underpowered. We'll see. Let's solder this up and see what happens. So generally, on these LEDs, the longest lead is your positive. And if you look real close, you notice it's kind of hooked to a bigger chunk embedded in the LED there, and that's your positive. So that's where we want our resistors at. All right, now we've got this female connector that's going to match our battery terminals, and we're going to wire it up to match. We're going to wire it up to the rest of it, to our power. So I'm using this 18 gauge. This is like a 12 gauge. This is not going to draw enough current for this transition to a smaller wire to make any significant difference. There's not going to be a problem using a smaller gauge in this instance. And I'm using scrap. It's the whole point of this, is to use scrap that I have laying around. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to set this up in here. I'll be honest with you, my soldering technique is not great. I don't know if you should be following my example here or not. But this isn't exactly rocket science. This thing doesn't need to send a probe to the moon. All right, that's that part. Now we got to wire it to our switch and battery. So we got to run a lead there, get this hooked in somewhere. We got to run a jumper from here to the switch as well. All right, let me set this up. Okay, so we got our hot lead coming off of the last switch and up here to our resistor. Got our negative hooked up. Got our switch wired up. Let's flip this thing over, put the battery on it, and see what happens. All right, battery's hooked up. We got it secured in the vise here. Now, this is not quite the ultimate test, but the way this is wired up, as long as all of our connections are good, the light should come on. And it did, and it didn't blow up. So we got the resistor right. It doesn't look terribly dim, so it's probably not too much resistance, even though we went overboard. So that works. It hit me. I'm gonna have to figure out the pinout of this thing so that when I wire up the Ethernet cables coming from the switch to these, they line up in some way that's predictable. So I can, you know, use the buttons the way they're supposed to be done. So, fumbled around for a little bit. I don't have alligator clips for my voltmeter anyway, but it doesn't matter. What I did was plugged in an old piece of Ethernet cable that I had. I kind of went through and checked those for continuity so I could see what's what, right? So first I did that, and I made this little chart here, kind of like we're looking at the back of this. So each of these slots is where one piece of wire will go. So we got a pair here and down here and here and here. So anyway, I made a little dot to represent, you know, each one of those. And then I plugged this in and put my voltmeter on the tone setting, and I just stuck one of these in here up against the metal prongs that are in there and checked each one of these until I got a tone. So this should be, according to my little chart, that should be the blue and white. Yeah, you can hear that. So basically I did that first, and I marked them out, blue and white, blue, green, green and white, you know, all of those there. And then I went down here, and with this out, and the same checker, you know, I stuck one in this end, and I went to each one of these pins and checked those, and then drew it out here. So then we know when we wire this up, how to wire up our ports so that when we plug a cable in here, it's predictable on the other end of it. I don't know, something ridiculous. Thought I'd just kind of show that process because it really wasn't something I thought about until I got to this point. We got the bottom and the sides glued up now. Got my safety third on the front. So on the back, this is where we're going to put our Ethernet ports. I got one here. So we're just going to squeeze this in from the back. But first, I've got to tease out all of these pairs from the Ethernet cable here. Cut these down to size and then get them crimped into this. I'm going to do all this and I'll bring you back because this is going to take a while and it's going to be really annoying. Now, I didn't quite get my holes as snug as I wanted. Part of that's probably design failure, but also I had to run like 7 passes with the laser to get these to fall out easily, because this is some pretty hard to cut stuff. So we'll hot glue those in there to secure them better. So those are wired up. We're going to put our battery in here somewhere. Now that that's sorted, we'll put some of these little posts in here. I've already got 2 in. We're just putting these in with some CA glue. These will be so we can put some screws in the corners through the top to secure this down. I want the top to be removable in case we have some issue with the electronics, and then also in order to get the battery out. Because I didn't really design some kind of quick access for the battery. So we'll make the top removable. Easy enough. Alright, those are in. We just need to mark the top, put a few little holes in there, and then also we need to drill a hole for our negative or neutral wire. So we got to feed a wire from the negative through the front to go to the rest of the fireworks. So let's drill those out. All right, we got this temporarily clamped down. We're just going to make some marks on these corners. 1/2 inch there. Half inch there. All right, that should get us into the center of our little post, if we're lucky. Let's see if that worked. Go ahead and put this screw in there. I mean, that feels pretty good. That feels secure. What next? Oh yeah, we gotta drill a hole here somewhere. Yeah, these are ugly. They're not very well aligned. But let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Let's say we'll put a hole right in there, in the center, to run our neutral through, or negative. Maybe. I don't know, it looks small. Nope, that works. All right, so we got that on there. Let's take the top back off and get this wired in. You know, I've got enough wire here for the battery that I could just cut a hole and put our jack on the outside and just plug the battery into it. Why don't we do that? Yeah, we should do that. All right, let's mark that out there, and we'll make ourselves a little hole. Right into the finger, just as I planned. Don't let me fool you, kids. I absolutely meant to lacerate myself. Oh, paper towel, electric tape, we're good as new. All right, let's finish cutting this damn hole out. And then we'll put our Velcro, let's say right there. Hopefully it'll stick. Have to reinforce that a little bit. That's gonna work, kids. Hell yeah, I'm glad I thought of that. Saved me a world of trouble. And it'll give me the chance to use different kinds of batteries if I decide that's something I want to do. Okay, so we got that. I'm gonna hot glue that in there, but let's zoom out here, and we're gonna put our neutral in there. So I got these terminal blocks. I'm gonna use those on the board that's got all of our fireworks in it. But these can cut off. Cut off a single one of these, like that. And then we'll glue this on the outside, maybe. Yeah, we should have room for that. All right, let's feed this through our hole there. Maybe. And then we'll have to connect that here somewhere. into this. So yeah, let's strip that down and we'll solder these in, and then we should be able to close the box and pretty well be done with all of this. All right, I'm gonna strip this down and solder it in. All right, I got that solder on there. Gluing that down. Let's get some glue on this plug. Get it oriented the way we want it. All right, that should be okay. I really don't need to secure that all that much. Let's, I don't think I'm gonna pull that out too much. Okay. I'm gonna let that dry another minute or two and then we'll close this back up. You guys still see what's going on here? Yeah, we'll slide that on there. Tighten this down. We'll just fold it over like that. Looks good. We'll CA glue on that. Okay, now let's try to test these out. I'm gonna plug my battery in. Let's just back this screw out and we'll just jam this down in there. I'm gonna jam this down in our negative terminal and crimp that back in. And then we'll plug in our little Ethernet nub here, and we can check each one of these, hopefully find the right one, and confirm our wiring arrangement. So let's flip our power switch on, LED lights on, which means we're getting power. So number one should be blue and white. So let's turn this on, check a voltage is 0. Orange. All right, so we know the first one's wired up right. I'll run through and check all of these other ones later. But we're going to clean this up, put a little stain back on it, and then we'll work on making cables for this all later. That's going to take some time and be really annoying and really not fun to watch. Let's clean this up. Man, this stuff smells delicious. And there you have it, kids. The TIA boombox. Really don't like the way those plugs are just randomly all janky, but it's fine. This thing's gonna work. We'll make some cables and test it in just a minute. All right, we're gonna test it out. Now I've got this hooked into numbers 57 through 60 here. First, we're gonna flip her on here. Light's red, which means we should be good to go. We got 4 of them all at once. 58, 59. It works, kids. All right, kids, that's it for the boombox. I got some other stuff going on. I got an RC plane we're printing. I'll get a video for that at some point, but I don't know when. We'll see when we get there.